Welcome everyone to the October 13th, 2020 Port Clinton City Council regularly scheduled meeting.
I move that we proceed to roll call.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I will
Mr.
second.
Hill. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Motion carries. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Pat Hovis. Beth Gillum. Roseanne Hickman.
Here.
Brian Hill.
Here.
Margaret Phillips.
Here.
Jerry Trolley.
Excused. Thank you. Council, you were emailed previously the September 2020 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Madam President, I move we approve the minutes from the 22nd of September.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Mrs. Hickman. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Motion carries. The chair notes that certification has been made regarding compliance with the rules and notifications of this meeting. We have no aggressive presentation, no public comments. Executive officers reports. Council, before you, you have a computer now that's provided by the city. If you would sign the paperwork, acknowledge acceptance. And this is for council work. Hopefully, we do not need to go to remote meetings. We're going to try and keep them in person, social distancing with masks and everything on as long as we can. Mr. Colston, the mayor, and I have been talking about some different places we can possibly have our meetings because it is not feasible to have them in city council and chambers right now. But this is to be used if you have to type out minutes for committee meetings or anything like that. Mrs. Ostheimer will send out some further information about what's on the computers and logging in and stuff like that. So, tonight there's a new resolution. It's 20-9. Administration is asked to be passed on its second reading if council so chooses. Okay, that's all I have. The mayor is not with us tonight, but he has emailed a statement. And he starts out with, "Where am I? A member of Port Clinton Kiwanis Club for whom I shared a table at last Wednesday's weekly meeting tested positive for COVID on Friday as my exposure to the individual was during their contagious stage of infection. The Ottawa County Health Department recommended that I and the other 5 people at the table quarantine until October 20th. Why was Pogemeyer presentation scheduled for today delayed until November 10th? The high lake levels, the issue that have arisen along Lakeshore Drive, and the ability of grant funding for this estimated $4 million repair project are the primary reason for the delay. The city has applied for $1.5 million in grant funds from ODOT. Combine that with the funds potentially available from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the city's commitment could range from $1.5 million to $4 million. The awarding of ODOT funds in late October will provide the needed clarity for the proper course of action. Citywide cleanup is slated for Saturday, October 17th from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. along the south side of City Hall. Into the parking lot from Buckeye Boulevard at the police station entrance. Proof of residency in the city is required. Additionally, please remember that although city crews will be in attendance to load items into dumpsters, they will not be available to remove items from vehicles. Also on the 17th, Ida Rupp Library is holding a shredding party. Anyone interested in having documents shredded must call for an appointment at 419-732-3212. Brush pickup. This is the final week for brush pickup for the season. Leaf pickup will begin once a substantial amount of leaves fall from trees. Paving work will soon begin around Derby Pond. Thanks to the Port Clinton Lighthouse Conservancy. Please note that although the walkway will completely surround the pond with an offshoot heading towards the Harrison Trail marker, the pavement will terminate at the wetlands property line in order to comply with environmental standards for the property. Crushed stone will serve as a path material in the wetlands area. The twin statue titled The Lighthouse Keeper on display near the lighthouse will soon be a permanent home thanks to a $55,000 plus raised in 2 months by the Port Clinton Lighthouse Conservancy. The man and the dog will be permanently placed in their current location pending final renderings of a base. The community is invited to a ribbon cutting ceremony on Thursday, October 22nd at 5:15 p.m. at Mom to mark the end of streetscape revitalization in downtown Port Clinton. This will not only be a celebration of the work completed by a kickoff of many great things to come for our downtown area. Former mayors, council members, and other elected officials have been invited to attend this short ceremony. The event will take place rain or shine. Finally, happy birthday to the mayor's dad, James Snip Snyder. He turned 75 this Friday, October 16th. Everyone is encouraged to honk and wave at him when you see him walking around town. Auditor submitted by email his month-end reports. Treasurer report, dock tax is $27,456.75. Bed tax is at $135,663.89. Law director's not here. Supervisor's reports. Mr. Colston, do you have anything?
Not tonight, Madam President.
Thank you. Committee reports. Mr. Belo, Finance.
We'll be having a appointment.
There will be an upcoming Finance Committee meeting to talk about additional CARES funds and their additional city allocation. And that meeting will be announced once it's scheduled. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Would you like to do economic and community development?
Sure. The Economic and Community Development Committee met before this meeting out in the lobby today. We discussed 2 ordinances that are on the agenda, as well as potential food truck regulation scheme that would enable food trucks to operate within the city. We'll take that up. I can speak to the 2 ordinances when they come up on the readings. And I'll remind everybody that the first ever community flag design competition is ongoing with the submission deadline of Monday, October 26th. We encourage everyone to submit sketches, written descriptions, and other ideas that will be submitted to the council clerk either electronically or by phone or any other means. So that date will be October 26th, and then the committee will look at design finalists that will go up on an electronic survey to the community for selection. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Belo. Environment and Public Works, Mrs. Hickman?
Nothing tonight, Madam President.
Thank you. Safety Services, Ms. Phillips?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Arts and Culture, Mrs. Gilman?
Nothing tonight, Madam President.
Thank you. Under correspondence, again, you were emailed the month-end reports from the auditor for September 2020. Do I have a motion to accept the correspondence as stated?
Madam President, I move to accept all of the correspondence as presented this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Belo. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Third readings of ordinances and resolution. Would the clerk please read by title and summary only ordinance 23-20?
Ordinance 23-20, an ordinance amending sections 1323.03,
1323.04, and 1323.041 of Chapter 1323 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Port Clinton.
Thank you. Does council wish to take any action as to ordinance 23-20 this evening?
Madam President,
Mr. Bealow?
move to adopt ordinance 2320.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I will
Second that. Thank you, Mrs. Sophus. Any discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Bealow?
this idea of the ordinance was considered at the Economic and Community Development Committee meeting, both originally at August 25 and was agreed to this evening, recommending the council adoption tonight of ordinance 2320. The ordinance would add 2 new board members, a safety service director and zoning inspector, both city employees, and designates the zoning inspector as the board chair. Currently, there are no city employees on the board of the Architectural Review Board. Those amendments that the committee took up and recommended are included in the ordinance. Additionally, I sought to include a new ARB reporting requirement to council, similar to what council directed to the new revolving loan fund, but on a semi-annual basis. This is included in the ordinance. And lastly, I sought to shorten the term of board members from 4 years to 2 years in order to increase likelihood of finding interested individuals willing to serve by lowering the commitment from 4 to 2 years while not preventing reappointment at the end of those 2 years. Additionally, if somebody becomes disinterested and unproductive, a shorter term would provide for an earlier opportunity to exit and appoint a replacement. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Bealow to adopt ordinance 23-20, seconded by Mrs. Hovis. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Margaret Phillips?
Yes.
Brian Hill?
Yes.
Roseanne Hickman?
Yes.
Beth Gilman?
Yes.
Pat Hovis?
Yes.
Gabe Bealow?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries to adopt ordinance 23-20 by a vote of 6-0. Would the clerk, okay, on to second readings of ordinances and resolutions. Would the clerk please read by title and summary only ordinance 24-20?
Ordinance 24-20, an ordinance amending ordinance number 1-20 of the City of Port Clinton and adjusting accounts within the City of Port Clinton.
Thank you. Does council wish to take any action as to ordinance 24-20 this evening? Seeing none, ordinance 24-20 will be moved to its third reading on October 27th, 2020. Would the clerk please read by title and summary only ordinance 25-20?
Ordinance 25-20, an ordinance amending 1147.02 of Chapter 1147 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Port Clinton and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Does council wish to take any action as to ordinance 25-20?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Bealow?
move to retain the emergency clause on ordinance 2520.
Thank you, Mr. Bealow. Do I have a second?
I will second.
I have a motion by Mr. Bealow, seconded by Mrs. Hickman to retain the emergency clause as to ordinance 25-20. Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Hovis? Beth Gilman?
Yes.
Gabe Bealow?
Yes.
Brian Hill? Margaret Phillips?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0.
Roseanne Hickman, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Sorry, I missed that. Now motion carries 6-0 as retaining the emergency clause as to ordinance 25-20. Does council wish to take any further action as to ordinance 25-20?
Madam President,
Mr. Bealow?
move to waive the third required reading of ordinance 2520.
Thank you, Mr. Bealow. Do I have a second?
Yeah, a second.
Thank you, Mrs. Gilman. Any discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Bealow.
this council knows ordinance 2520 relates to regulations and relaxing those regulations pertaining to display of political lawn signs. With the upcoming election, it's timely and it would be in the best interest of the city, especially from a legal perspective, to have this ordinance and the resulting enforcement of those regulations be in place sooner than later, ahead of the election.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll as to waiving the 3 required readings as to ordinance 25-20?
Margaret Phillips,
Yes.
Roseanne Hickman,
Yes.
Brian Hill, Beth Gilman, Gabe Vila,
Yes.
Pat Hovis.
And that is 6. So, motion carries to waive the 3 required readings as to ordinance 25-20 by a vote of 6-0. Does council wish to take any further action as to ordinance 25-20?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Bealow.
move to adopt ordinance 2520.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Mrs. Hickman. Any discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Bealow.
last month I proposed to the city administration some amendments to the codified ordinances addressing political yard signs. I think we all know that the current rules, specifically around the timing of yard signs and the number permitted on each lot, sees low compliance across the city. And upon further investigation, there's some new case history since the original ordinance providing for these regulations was passed back in 2003. Specifically, there was a Supreme Court of the United States case in 2015 called Reed versus the Town of Gilbert, Arizona, which had vastly different size and timing requirements for religious, political, and directional signs. In that case, my understanding is that the Supreme Court deemed content-based laws, those that target speech based on its communicative intent, are presumptively unconstitutional. In 2016, a U.S. district judge issued a preliminary injunction against the city of Perrysburg, Ohio, just up the road, after the city enforced its zoning code that prohibited any temporary signs more than 60 days before or 7 days after an event, like an election. The city was successfully sued by a then city council candidate who I believe had political yard signs displayed before that 60-day time period. The city since amended its zoning code in 2017 after the 2016 ruling. So what it seems to me is regulation of signage based on its verbiage face heightened standard of review. Signs cannot be subject to more strict regulations simply because of their content, or in this case, a political message in support of a particular political candidate or issue. Based on my reading, my understanding is that general aesthetics of the community, say limited intention to limit cluttered appearance because of, say, political yard signs, doesn't cut it in terms of federal case law. So right now, the city has on the books a different set of rules for political yard signs than, say, temporary commercial signs like a yard sale or a garage sign. And I would not want to see the city running afoul of the First Amendment if those rules are enforced and perhaps we come across a particularly litigious city resident who wants to see their sign for the upcoming election remain there permanently. So let's repeal those rules and, in my view, give right to the law. Thank you, Madam President. We also discussed this at the earlier Economic and Community Development Committee meeting, and there were no objections, and generally there was support for the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Bealow. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bealow, seconded by Mrs. Hickman to adopt ordinance 25-20. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Yes.
Pat Hovis,
Yes.
Beth Gilman,
Abstain.
Roseanne Hickman,
Yes.
Brian Hill,
Yes.
Margaret Phillips.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries by a vote of 5, no opposed, and 1 abstain. And ordinance 25-20 is hereby adopted. Okay, first readings of ordinance and resolution. Would the clerk please read resolution 20-9 by title and summary only?
Resolution 20-9, a resolution supporting the Park District of Ottawa County proposed levy tax.
Thank you. Does council wish to take any action this evening as to resolution 20-9? Seeing none, it will be moved to its second reading on October 27th, 2020. Business from the floor. Mr. Hill.
If we have working laptops and we're used to doing Zoom meetings and things like that, do we need to take these? Are they like all set up already with everything? Okay.
The computers are set up with Microsoft Office, and then in your first tab, when you put in a tab for the internet, World Client is there marked for you as a favorite, and you would enter your own password to get into your email. And Zoom, it would be an invitation only if we choose to go that route for council meetings. So this is for that reason in itself, is for people didn't have cameras on their computers at home. We did not have them at City Hall, so these computers were purchased for council to have ease if we need to go to Zoom. And then any other council work can be done on them, and when you are no longer on council, they would return to the city.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing else.
Ms. Phillips?
That's the question.
Okay. Yes.
Business from the floor, because I could not hear what you were saying. Okay. The only problem I ran into was about 2 weeks ago, and I received a letter at my home, full-page letter, with a bunch of questions about things that are going on around the city. Well, it was unsigned, but I went ahead and I did go around and I did figure out that many of the things that were talked about are actually in process of being taken care of. My problem with an unsigned letter is, to whom do I go to contact to give them the information when there is no name and no phone number? This time, when I received the unsigned letter, that will be the only time I will look to find out answers to questions. If people want me to look for something or to contact a person for them or check on something, I need a name and a phone number. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Mrs. Hickman?
Nothing tonight, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bealow?
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Mrs. Hovis? Nothing tonight, Madam President. Thank you. Mrs. Gilman?
Nothing tonight, Madam President.
Thank
Madam
you.
President,
Yes.
go Redskins.
Thank you. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam President, I move this august body adjourn.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you. Mrs. Hickman, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign. We're hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone.